Many people think of Hyannis history as something that is gone. Much of it is. But there's still a great deal that remains. And today we will visit some of it. This is what the village looked like in 1884. But our story today really begins in 1898, when Dr. C. E. Harris came to Hyannis to practice medicine. He became fascinated with its maritime history and attempted to catalog all the sea captains who had lived here and where they had lived. He knew he was starting late and could only make a partial list. Still, he came up with 272 of them, 90 of whom came from three families: the Hallets, the Burses, and the Crolls. He made a map of where each captain's house was. Each number on the map represents a captain's house, and this is only part of that map. Their houses extended across the entire village. Particularly in the first half of the 19th century, going to sea was the only way to get ahead in the world of Cape Cod. All the land was spoken for, and all the businesses were family businesses. Sometimes going to sea was the only way to get fed, and there are many examples of boys as young as 7 going out, usually as a cook's helper. This old picture of Hyannisport Harbor shows just how busy that harbor was in the 19th century. During the late 1800s and early 1900s, many visitors to Hyannis described it as the prettiest village on the Cape. These old postcards give us an idea as to why. This house on East Main Street, near Bayview Street, belonged to a steamship captain, Captain Thomas Gray. Well preserved, today it is home to the 12 Tribes, a controversial religious group. Next door to it is the house that belonged to one of our most prominent citizens, Captain Benjamin Baxter, who lived from 1823 to 1897. The Baxters were originally concentrated in West Yarmouth, just over the town line from this house. They and the Crolls, also established in West Yarmouth, naturally gravitated towards the larger village. Benjamin was one of 15 children. He went to sea at 12 and would sail all over the world, sometimes accompanied by his wife, and 2 of their daughters were born at sea. He is the founder of the branch of the Baxter family that was later to dominate the southern section of Pleasant Street, where they would open the iconic Baxter's Fish and Chips, who counted the Kennedys amongst their clientele. Today, this house is home to an organization called Homeless, Not Helpless. A little further down Main Street is this once grand house, now divided into apartments, as are many of the big old surviving houses in Hyannis. This one belonged to Captain Zenas Crowell, another West Yarmouth transplant, and he lived from 1820 to 1886 and went to sea at the age of 15. He was a mate by the time he was 20, and he became a clipper captain who frequently made trips to the Far East. He retired from the sea at age 50. His daughter married a noted clipper captain in his own right, Captain Wallace Frost. As we continue down Main Street towards the center of town, we see this house on the right-hand side that you would never think is as old as it is. It was built in 1775, and one of its owners, Captain Seth Hallett Sr., was lost at sea. When it was a doctor's office, while you were waiting, you could actually see that many of the original architectural details on the inside still remain. A little ways up Camp Street from Main Street is this fine old house. now also apartments. Alan Burse went to sea at age 10 and he was a captain at 19. He sailed clipper ships, as did his two brothers Wallace and Franklin. As you can see, clipper ship captains did quite well for themselves. At the corner of Lewis Bay Road and Main Street is this 1840s captain's house from Captain Joshua Chase. Unsurprisingly, it is also divided into apartments today. Proceeding down Lewis Bay Road on the left, we see this little house that has survived since 1770. This house, where South Street meets Lewis Bay Road, is quite noticeable as an example of the opulence of the 18th century. Captain Timothy Baker built it in 1790, and he was later lost at sea at the age of 57. Eventually, it became the home of the first doctor at Cape Cod Hospital, Dr. Edward Gleason, and today it is owned by Cape Cod Healthcare. We return to Main Street and turn left, towards the center of town again. This beautiful building on the right dates from 1800 and was once a rooming house. It is referred to as the Josephine Wilcox House because she came to own it as a daughter of the wealthy Wire family who were whalers and who had large houses nearby, now gone. Today it is a realtor's office, and the inside is just beautifully furnished. The little house closest to us is one of the oldest in Hyannis, dating to 1710. At one time it belonged to a Dr. Oliver Ford, whose daughter, Rosella, married the man who built the large pink house we see beyond it. He was Captain Sylvester Baxter, a prosperous steamship captain. Being the second wife, she survived him, and after his death, Rosella recruited 13 other women to found the Hyannis Library Association, which would eventually become today's Hyannis Public Library. Although School Street is close by on our left, we will skip it today. Seen here as it looked in 1884, it still has 6 captains' houses and some other fine 19th century homes on it today. The original school, for which it was named, still stands at the corner of South Street, but it bears almost no resemblance today to its original appearance. Continuing towards the center of town, we take a quick right onto Yarmouth Road to see the home of Captain Elkanah Crowell, one of the most accomplished sailors of his era. He and Captain Rodney Baxter constantly raced one another on parallel journeys. Crowell set the record for a sailing ship going from San Francisco to Honolulu, making the passage in 8 days and 18 hours. It was the straightest route ever made by a ship of sail. Returning to Main Street, we resume our journey towards the center of town. We're also going to skip Pleasant Street as we have a separate video that covers it extensively. This is a detail of the street from that same 1884 map. Later, it would aptly be called Sea Captain's Row. After the intersection of Old Colony Way and Center Street, we have this photo of what it looked like before the Great Fire of 1904. Notice the private houses on the left, all to become victims of that fire. Here we have a picture of essentially the same view of that part of town, taken in 1910. McGathlin's drugstore in the foreground was a local landmark. Today, it is a church. This is what the interior of McGathlin's once looked like. As you can see, they had a little bit of everything: soda shop, books, gift shop, and of course, pharmacy. On the left, here's the old Hyannis Trust Company, later Cape Cod Bank and Trust, and then TD Bank. Today it has been obscured by renovations, and as of this recording in 2026, it is slated to be demolished. Turning right onto Barnstable Road, we have the old fire station on the right, with its lookout tower up top, dating from 1925. Next to it, at the corner of North Street and Barnstable Road, is this house, built by Captain Orrin Burse in 1880. After many additions and renovations, it is virtually unrecognizable in its current incarnation. One house in from Barnstable Road on North Street is another old house you would never notice. Built in 1800, it is linked to a Cyrus Copeland, carpenter, and his wife Abigail. They passed it on to his son, Jason, listed as a housewright, who apparently never renovated his parents' house. Going back to Main Street and turning right, we will come to the Hyannis Public Library on our left. It was once home to a Captain Samuel Hallett and dates back to at least 1808. Recent renovations uncovered this well located under the old kitchen. Next door is the Asa Burse house. Slightly less dignified than it once was, Captain Asa Burse, Jr. was a wealthy coaster and the son of another captain, Asa Sr. If we turn left onto Pearl Street, we come to this modest house at the corner of Pearl and South. It belonged to a daughter of Asa Jr. and her husband, Captain Sidney Kroll. Sidney's father died when he was an infant, and his mother struggled mightily financially. He went to sea at the age of 7. He didn't return home until he was 9. He found the house to be dark and locked up. He let himself in through an unlocked window and discovered the next day that his mother had died 2 weeks before his return. He put back out to sea and became a captain at age 28. A popular and genial man, he was also a prominent Mason. Diagonally across South Street from the Kroll House is this well-known octagon house, built in 1850 by Captain Rodney Baxter, a colorful and prosperous clipper ship captain. He was renowned for the speed at which he sailed and at which he drove his horse and buggy around town. In 1874, General Grant stopped by Hyannis on a campaign tour, and Baxter was the one chosen by the town to greet him and to drive him around town. Back to Main Street, we have this venerable old building at the corner of Winter Street. Built in 1820, it has housed many businesses in its time. Starting in 1842, it was a grocery store, owned by various sea captains either by themselves or in partnership with other sea captains. In 1896, the last of them, Captain Albert Chase, reputed at the time to be the richest man in Hyannis, bequeathed the store to his devoted employee of 24 years, Dennis O'Neill. The O'Neill family ran it as a grocery for another 64 years. A little further down the street, we have the business now known as the Candy Corner. This building was put up in 1860 to be a grocery store by Captain Joseph Parker, who had just sold his share of the grocery business at the store we just saw. Parker was a hard-luck captain. He was shipwrecked twice. The first time he broke his leg and clung to the wreckage of his ship for 3 days and 2 nights before being rescued. And it was another month before his leg could be set. The second time he was shipwrecked, he suffered from sunstroke from which he never fully recovered. You can see why he went into the grocery business. He lived upstairs in this building. Next door is the First Baptist Church of Hyannis, built in 1825. Many of Hyannis's notable citizens are buried in the old graveyard behind it. At one time, its bell was rung to summon firefighters to the station to fight a fire. There's a story that when the first Universalist church down the street caught fire, the sexton at this church refused to ring the bell, saying that the Universalist fire was, quote, God's work. Diagonally across the street is the building that was the firehouse before they built the one we saw earlier on Barnstable Road. Today, you would never know that. If we go a little further down Main Street and turn left onto Pine Avenue, we immediately see this beautifully preserved 1775 house on our right. It belonged to two different Captain Crosbys, whom Harris did not find out about, and one Captain Augustus Kroll, about whom he tells us only that Kroll died at the old sailors' home at Snug Harbor on Staten Island. It's believed that Kroll moved the house back from Main Street onto Pine Avenue. This house was also the first parsonage for the Baptist church we just saw. On the left-hand corner at the end of the block stands this stately 1900 house, briefly home to Captain Clarence Eldridge, a coastal steamship captain. It's better known as the home of Mr. William Currier, who was principal of the Normal School from 1911 to 1946. Today, it belongs to the Barnstable Housing Authority and is divided up as apartments for senior citizens. Way down Pine Avenue at number 151 on the right, we find what is left of one of the oldest houses in Hyannis. Town records show that it was built in 1710, but they do not show who built it. The earliest resident they list here is an S. Alexander Hinckley, who took Ora Adams as his second wife in 1886. She became a towering figure in town as librarian at the Hyannis Public Library, effectively building it into the institution it is today. In recent years, the house suffered a catastrophic fire, and this is what is left of it today. It is to the credit of the owner that she saved what she could after the original contractor recommended demolishing the entire structure. This is what the house looked like when Ora lived here. Returning to Main Street and turning left, we find Katie's Ice Cream at the corner of Bassett Lane. This house was built in 1800 and was home to two notable citizens. Captain William Hallett lived there for many years. Born in 1819, he was orphaned at the age of 5 and put into the care of unsympathetic relatives. He ran away from them and put out to sea at the age of 15. He became a mate at 23 and a captain at 26. His career spanned the age of both sail and steam. Later, this was home to Dr. C. E. Harris, about whom we have already learned. This is what it looked like when Harris lived there. Finally, we will skip ahead all the way to the corner of C Street and Gosnold Street. There, close by the old harbor, we find this sweet little home built by Lot Crocker in 1808. This house was in the Crocker family from that time until 1926. Its best-known resident was Orrin Crocker, who was born in this house in 1832 and who died here in 1926. Orrin lost two brothers to the sea, William and Lot Jr., both of them captains. He engaged in many enterprises, most related to the sea. For a while, he ran a livery service, enabling sailors to get from the harbor to their homes or into town. He was also a founder and then first keeper of the lighthouse for the harbor, and he was the first to create a storm signal apparatus. Later, he established a milk route. But he was perhaps best known as a correspondent for the Associated Press and for the Boston and New York dailies. He reported daily on ship arrivals and departures from Hyannis Harbor. He was generally referred to as Uncle Orrin, and when he died, his obituary ran in the New York Times. We have skipped over many interesting and historic homes in the interests of brevity. If you take the time, you will find a stroll down C Street, South Street, School Street, or Pleasant Street to be visually rewarding.